Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is actually take two. The first time I tried to do this video, this interview, I forgot to press the record button. This is the expertise that you're dealing with here in interviewing skills. But I'm going to introduce to you a really great guy. He's actually somebody who went to the same high school as I did in the same year. So it's kind of cool that, it's a guy from my back home. And he's just a really great guy. He's a friend of the channel and somebody that I bought books from as well. So it's really great. So I want to introduce you to the P-Man on Instagram or Troy Percy. So Troy, nice to have you again on the channel.
Hi, Alan. Thanks for having me.
So yeah, so I'm not sure if you know these questions, but how did you get started into collecting comics? Give us a little bit about your journey into collecting comics.
Sure. My first love in collecting actually was sports cards.
Mm-hmm.
In the early 90s, I started, and then it got in from sports cards into little collectibles and then statues. And for me, it got a little overwhelming, and I really didn't know if it was for me, so I sold everything. And I've always wanted to have comic books because I've always loved them as a child, like I'm sure everybody did.
Yeah.
And then I seen graded comics, and I've always wanted to have a graded comic. I thought they looked pretty cool, and you can keep them in here forever. And then I stumbled upon your channel, and I've just been watching all your videos and all the insight that you give on all the books and seeing the different covers and the old books, and it really intrigued me. So I started, and I really didn't know which way I wanted to go. It was just everywhere. I picked one here, one there, but it was the golden age that I wanted, like from 38 to 55. That's all I wanted. Yeah. And then eventually I just set my sight on what brought more nostalgia to me when I was a kid, and that was golden age Disney. And that's the route that I am wanting to go now, is just specifically golden age Disney. Whether down the road I branch off into silver age or bronze, whatever. But right now I'm happy with Disney.
Yeah, I mean, Disney is great. We were talking about this earlier, kind of. But Disney is just like, it's amazing how undervalued it is, in my opinion. That it's just, there's like so many really great covers, like from Disney collection, and they're just so affordable. Like you can, like I've seen, like in one of my local comic shops, they had like not a dollar bin, but a $10 bin, and a $10 bin of like maybe 4 O's for Disney comics, and you could pick up like just really one great, Disney comic after another. It's just, it was pretty insane to me, like, how undervalued they are.
They are, and the prices are fantastic on them. Of course, the higher you go, the more expensive they are. But I mean, that's pretty much with anything that you collect.
Yeah.
But I'm just surprised, like for the age and what these books have been through to survive, and you could still get them cheap. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like if I want to read them, I do read digital comics. I'll read them digitally.
That's what I do too.
Yeah, I don't, even if I had them raw, I still wouldn't open them up and read them. I'd just be too scared to cause more damage.
Yeah, that's the way I am too. That's why I really love the slab. Like I like that, the fact that you can kind of hold it and kind of look at it up close, and sort of like a piece of art, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, now they got frames that you can put your slabs in and put up on the wall. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it's so great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a good conversation piece.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Like I know when people come in my office, the first thing they see, they go, "Wow, you actually it's that old?" Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of funny. Speaking of conversation pieces, you know, you see my comics in behind me. This is my office. You're in your office. I'm in my office. Actually, it's interesting. Like I'll do Zoom calls with clients, and they'll see the comics in behind me, which is very unprofessional. But the funny thing is, I've gotten clients from that where they're like, "Oh, I'm a collector too. I really enjoy comics. And they will actually we will talk not about business, we'll talk about comics, and they'll say, "Oh, of course I'm going to make you a client. Of course I'm going to work with you." We didn't even talk about anything business,
No.
but just that the fact that they know that I'm a collector and they're a collector,
Yep.
was enough to like say, "Hey, you've got to sign the deal."
It's a perfect icebreaker.
Yeah, it is. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because when we were young, comics were kind of like relegated to sort of the geeky fringe of society. Now it's much more, kind of
it's a
accepted.
lot broader spectrum for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, so you brought some comics to show. Let's see.
I do. Like I mentioned before, I'm fairly new into it. The other half that I had, you have now, which I'm sure the community will see at some point down the road.
Yeah.
But it just goes towards what I want to focus on, and I just don't want to have bits and pieces in my collection. Not right now, anyway. But I do have 3 of them here to show. The first one is a 4-color number 296 from 1950, and it's an animated cover, which the kids could cut here and there. And on the back, they could cut out Mickey's badge and make it move under his vest. So it's, yeah, and it's a 4.5. It really presents well. There's not a lot of damage to it whatsoever. I really like it. And just for the fact that these animated covers had survived without being cut up, yeah, I'd take them all day long. If I could find more, I'd have them.
Yeah, to me, it's actually insane that survived at all. Like at all. Like I think when kids saw that, they'd be the first thing they'd want to do is make it come to life, right?
Yeah.
Like it just seems like a really fun thing. Like
yeah.
I would have done that. I would have done that. I would just I would have fully cut. I would have cut that out. I love those things.
Yeah, I would have done it too. And just for the fact that it's complete and intact. Yeah. There's no, and I mean, that book cost me around $80, $70, $80 and a 4.5. I
mean, that's so crazy. If you think about it, like that book, basically $30 is slab cost in that. So you're telling me that it's a $50 book. That's right? So insane. Like, I know. That's so cheap. I know. It's really undervalued. So I think you're really choosing the right thing to collect, because you're in that kind of sweet opportunity situation where the books haven't really gotten the value that they deserve. And definitely I can see them going up once people learn about them. Exactly.
Yeah. And with me collecting them, I kind of had this in my head that I didn't want to go any further down than a 4.0 in grade.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the 4.0s, they still present well. They're fairly cheap. And if you see one higher down the road, if you want to upgrade, that's fine.
Yep.
But I just, after seeing different videos and stuff, and the lower you go, then you get into detached covers, and covers are missing pieces, and that's not what I wanted to have.
Yeah, actually, I think 4.0 is a good grade. Like, it does generally present fairly well, especially in the slab, because usually most of the damage is going to be along the spine, and you don't see that.
No,
In so, you know, if it's in a slab, who cares, right? At that point, you know, you can't see the spine.
that's right.
So I think, yeah, I buy some low grade comics. You know, if you watch my videos, you see that. Um, but generally, that's what I do. I look for like a low grade, but maybe it's got a split spine that you just don't see in the case. So you
Yeah,
can kind of get away with, you know, with that low grade. But yeah, that's a really great one. Probably you'll see that in a future unboxing for me because you know, when I love a cover, I just, you know, that one I'm not sure if you're familiar with the anime, like the black and white animated. You know, they make Funko Pops with that black and white Mickey
yep,
and all that. It almost gives me a feel of that. Like it has like almost that black and white feel to it a
it
bit.
does. Yeah,
Style. So I kind of like that. I think it looks really cool, and I like the little animation thing. I think that's just such a gimmick. That's so
I know.
cool.
And growing up, I mean, Mickey Mouse was one of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah,
My favorite cartoon to this day, and I watched it on Disney Plus yesterday,
yeah.
was Lonesome Ghosts.
Yeah,
Him and Donald and Goofy had the Ghost Extermination Company.
yeah, yeah. That is so great.
Yeah,
And I was telling you before that I have the little projector thing with that story.
yeah,
With that story, I
I
just
had
love
it
that story. So man,
too. Forward and backwards, I used to watch it.
forward and backwards. Yeah, yeah. You know, for those people that don't know that story, it's really great. They kind of walk into this like ghost thing, and they kind of get the first thing that you always do in a horror movie is get divided. So they all kind of have their own little adventures, and the ghosts are kind of playing tricks on them and stuff. And
Yeah,
it's such a great story.
yeah, it's very nostalgic. It's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Like I said, for me and most of us out there, we're getting older. We don't want to, but this is
Hmm.
the way to kind of, I don't know, bring back your childhood memories a little
Yeah, yeah,
and just kind of make the aging process a little easier, I guess.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I always serve in the belief like that if you stay young at heart, you know, I mean, like you actually stay young in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So let's see your next book. Let's see
Okay.
your.
The next one is a four color 12 from Dell. It's from 1942, and it's a 4.0, and it's Bambi's first appearance in the comic.
Bambi, Thumper, and
Thumper and Flower, they're all there. And then it's the movie adaptation. I've read this one digitally,
mm-hmm.
and the story is just phenomenal, just like the movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the back, they kind of make like a pinup.
The back is amazing.
It is. It is really nice.
And that's my favorite. As I said before, that's my favorite scene from the movie. I just always thought that romance scene where they are like, oh, we're never gonna fall in love with girls, and, and then they all get like picked off basically.
Yeah,
so great.
And I actually bought this one, Alan. There was on eBay. It was a gentleman from Alberta, actually.
Yeah.
And I negotiated.
I have to look up. I think it's the same dealer that I deal with that's out there.
Yeah, because there's not too many.
Yeah, not too many.
You get to know them after a while, and it's like, the same guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is it Dave?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it's Dave.
Yeah.
But he's a really great vendor, and he does seem to specialize in a lot of Golden Age stuff.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I negotiated with him a little bit on that. I mean, the book still cost me about $350, but the way it presented and for that grade, I thought it was a steal right now.
That is a steal. That is a really great price. Like, I have a low grade copy of it, but I'd like maybe a 2 or a 3, I would say. But yeah, it was still in that pretty expensive. It's not a cheap book.
No.
Yeah, but I find that that's one advantage that we do have as Canadians, where there will be vendors here in Canada, and people in the US won't buy from them.
No.
It's sort of because they don't like the shipping costs. They get freaked out by the shipping costs from Canada to the US.
Yeah.
But we're so used to being screwed over as Canadians with the high shipping costs that we don't mind. It's like, oh,
No.
somebody local? Oh, that's even better.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's so awesome. So I picked up some pretty great deals from him because I think, you know, he does generally list a bit lower than the American counterpart would.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I like when I negotiate, like everybody. I mean, I don't lowball.
Yeah.
You like to get a fair deal, right? So if you come back with one, they may come back with another price, and just kind of meet in the middle, sort of thing.
Yeah. That's a good way.
I don't want to get into the habit of just buying to have it. You know what I mean? Oh, there's the price. I gotta have it. I need it. Just
yeah.
That could be very treacherous on some, I'm sure.
Yeah, my credit card feels it because I do that too much. Yeah, my poor credit card. It's barely alive right now. It's on life support, actually.
Yeah. That's
but
yeah, it's just amazing, like what these books have gone through for the years that they are, how old they are, and just what's been going on in the world, like from that year up till now. It's like, how do you survive in that good a shape?
I know. I mean, a 4.0 is actually a pretty big deal. Like, I've been trying to explain this to people because people are used to the modern books. And, you know, oh, it has to be a 9.8. Well, okay, that's easy when the first thing you do is take it right off the shelf and put it into a bag and board. But those books back then, you know, I actually liked your story when you were saying it before, you know, how kids would treat the books.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, just fold them in half and put them in their back pocket. They'd hop on their bicycles, go down the road. The comic hook would fly off in the mud. They'd pick it up, put it in their back pocket again.
Shake it off, maybe.
Slap it on their knee.
Yeah.
So to see those still in great shape, it astounds me. It really does. It's like, I'm in.
Yeah. Especially the Disney ones, like, because I like my parents, they didn't like me collecting the idea of collecting comics. They were more like, you get these books to read. Okay, so that was the philosophy that I was sort of brought up on. And they didn't want me to read anything that was not appropriate. So I was not allowed to read the superhero stuff and all this other stuff. So I grew up reading Gold Key, like Disney books, you know, like Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse and all those characters. So, but my books, I know I have them. They're just in such bad shape. Like the covers are barely hanging on, and like, you know, it looks like somebody was like eating them at some point, or I colored all over them. It's just like they're really, really abused, and it's so sad to see. Like, you know, as like a collector now, where I'm like very paranoid about, you know, even a bend in the corner, to see these books that I treated so harshly as a kid.
Yeah, I wouldn't dare. Like I read digital comics. Like I said, if I want to read it, I'll read it digitally.
Yeah, me too.
I will not, even if I bought one raw, I would not open it up to read it.
Yeah.
Because I think I just damage it more, and it's like, no. Just leave it in the bag.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about buying, like, because you can get raw books much, much cheaper. Have you ever thought of buying them and then maybe setting them off, or?
I thought about that, Alan, but I'm still kind of on the fence about that one.
Yeah.
Unless you know who you're buying from, because so many things can happen to the book.
Yeah.
And even though the person that's selling them might have got them from somebody else, he's only going by what he sees and what he knows. How do you know for sure that something's not trimmed or there's color?
Yeah. I mean, I just had that happen with a dealer. Like, you know, this guy is supposed to be a good dealer. And I bought like 20 books from him, and three of 3 or 4 of them actually had major issues where a page was missing. You know, that's, as a dealer, that's the first thing they should be checking. So
Yes,
I
for
feel like
sure.
it's unexcusable, like at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when they got back from CGC, it's like a 0.5. It's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind
Yeah,
of brutal.
that worries me a lot.
Mhm.
I know, watching one of Ryan's videos, he was talking about a website where you can get the page count
Yeah.
on comics.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's something, if I wanted to go raw for some,
Mhm.
it might
Yeah.
be worth it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you know that, that's why I try to buy from reputable dealers on eBay,
Mhm.
or Heritage is another place that I buy books.
Yeah.
Did you ever buy anything from Heritage Auctions, or
I
did you
have.
ever look into them?
I've been watching some, but most of them are well out of my price range right now.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, you know, we were talking about how books like Disney books are undervalued.
Mhm.
On Heritage, not so much.
Not so much.
They seem to know the value of these books. They go for crazy prices. Like
Yeah.
I saw some like random book, like not even like a key for Disney, but it was just like a high grade, like maybe a 7. Like when I
Mhm.
say high grade, I mean a 7.
Yeah.
And it went for like 500-600 bucks, but it wasn't a key. It just was a cool, you know, nice cover, and
Mhm.
you know, it just they go for big bucks on Heritage.
Mhm.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's more collectors that are after them more.
I think it's just a different audience. It's a more mature
I
audience. I
think
think
so,
that's
yeah.
what it is.
And then all it takes is 2 guys or 2
Yeah,
ladies,
yeah,
whoever's buying them, and if one
and
wants
it
it
goes
bad enough,
crazy. Yep, that's all it takes. Yeah.
it'll go.
So you have some more books? Let's see.
I have one more big
Okay.
key.
Okay. So I was talking about how Disney books above a 6 are really expensive. So
Yep. So this one is a 4-color 19 from Dell from 1942, and it's 7.5, and it's Thumper meets the 7 Dwarfs. And this book
that is
is in real nice
beautiful.
shape, especially for a black cover.
Hmm.
It's in real good shape.
Actually, it looks like, is it just that one spot near the bed where there's a bit of a color break
Right
right
here,
there? Yeah,
that's about the only.
that looks like the only flaw. It looks so perfect.
Yeah, it's in fantastic shape. Fantastic shape.
Really
And the
nice.
back is another pin up. I don't think that's in the movie, but
Yeah, but it's a great pinup. I love the backs of these ones.
it is. The backs of them are unbelievably nice.
So that's
But I
beautiful.
actually, this book here, the guy that I got it off of, he has a bunch of raw Disney ones that are in real nice shape for good prices.
Oh
So when
wow.
we were talking about raw, if I was going to go that way, I'd like to try some from him first.
Yeah.
I actually negotiated with that a little bit. The book still cost me about $5.50.
Yeah, but that's a great price, actually, I think, for that
Yeah,
book. I mean, that is one of the big keys. It's not a like first appearance or anything like that, but it's just such a like great cover
yeah,
that
yeah, because it's a meeting between the two, right?
yeah, yeah. You know, I always think about nowadays, like I'm not sure if you watch Comic Tom or those kind of channels,
Yeah,
but one of the things that they keep on going on about is the first time that Daredevil meets Superman or you know, Spider-Man or something like
mhm.
that, or you know, some you know situation where like the two characters meet for the
First
first time.
meeting, yeah,
So maybe with Disney, that could be the next big thing, right?
yeah.
Um,
There was a copy of that
mhm.
about 3 weeks ago on eBay. It was a 6.5, and
Okay.
the seller wanted Well, by the time you turn it into Canadian, of course, I get the Canadian price.
Yeah, yeah.
It was over $1,100 for a 6.5.
Wow. That's so, yeah. So the way I always see it is like when you get to 6 with the Disney stuff, it kind of hits like some crazy price.
Yeah.
It's like, it's $50 as a 5. And then it's like 400 as a 6. And it's just like, it hits like a crazy price. And then every point above that gets even crazier. So
Yeah.
I think you did really well on that 7.5.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, it just amazes me how they can be in that nice shape from that year.
Yeah. Do you know what the census is like for that book?
I did, but I forget.
Okay. That's something you should, like, I always like checking that.
There's not very many.
Yeah, but I wonder if it's like one of the highest at that.
I think there's a couple more, Alan, ahead of that. I think there's one in the 8s, and I think there's a 9.2, if I'm not mistaken, or a 9.0.
Yeah, because there have been a few, like one of the, like the Edgar Church, or like, the Mile High collection, right? Where they do find those kind of books, but yeah, those are really rare, like really rare books.
Yeah. I usually keep an eye on the census for stuff like this. When I watched your video there, when you were saying about how some sellers have on there that this book is really rare, there's only one on the census, but it's not worth anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
No, but stuff like this, it will.
It does. Yeah, because if I had that book, I would get it graded because it is a major book.
Yeah. But I
so
think.
Yeah. So what are you hunting now, by the way?
Right now I've got my eye on one that Ryan has. It's the first Scrooge in title, and it's an 8.5.
Yeah.
And the grade to me is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I have to get a hold of him, and because that was part of selling the other books to you, was to help with that, right? So
help that purchase, yeah.
Hopefully, I'll get in touch with him on Instagram
and try to get a good deal. Try to tell him that he's going to save all those eBay costs and stuff.
Yeah. Save all the eBay fees and see what happens there. Because you were mentioning before a place where you can find keys for all the books. What site were you mentioning before when we talked?
Oh yes. So one of the things that we were talking about in the previous recording of this,
in our interview.
Yeah, the interview. This is the second time we're recording this. Was one of my plans was just for Troy. I would do this. I would create a video showing all the Disney keys, just showing you all the ones that you should pick up. And one of the best ways of finding out what those Disney keys are is to go to Key Collector Comics. Comic Tom always goes on about them, but you can go there, Key Collector Comics, and you just search by title and then put in 4-color. And then it'll show you all the keys for 4-color. It actually will have it as there's 2 sections for it because there's the first series and the second series. But I would look at both because there's some really great books in there. And it's amazing how few people really know what those keys are. I mean, we talked about how on Heritage they know, but on eBay they don't necessarily know.
No.
So you can still pick up some big grails, like what I call a grail is like first, like Mickey Mouse, or first Donald Duck, or first, some big character that people just don't realize what it is. They see it, oh, it's just like some kid's book. They don't realize what they have. And you can pick up some pretty great stuff. So that's what I did. When I do collect 4-color. So I basically went through Key Collector Comics and just said, okay, I'm going to buy that one, buy that one, watch all the big keys. So
I think I'll do that because for a new collector like myself getting into this,
Mm-hmm.
I want to go into it nice and smooth and not fall in a hole pretty quick.
Yeah. The only hole that I kind of fell into, and this is something that maybe my warning to you, is sometimes like what I thought was the first appearance is not the first appearance. I actually just made this mistake recently, and I'm trying to get out of it, where I bought a book on heritage. Okay, and I thought it was the first Mickey Mouse. Um, it was a 4.0 of Mickey Mouse magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and it's from 1933. Okay, November. So that's like, so once you learn a bit more, you'll realize that that's a mistake. If it says February or January, I think it's January or February, then it's the actual Mickey Mouse magazine #1, which is the first Mickey Mouse. But if it's November, it's like a dairy giveaway. It's like another series of magazines that came out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's not the same thing. And it's like it's still worth a lot. It's still
Yeah.
worth in the thousands of dollars.
But it's not what you were looking for.
But it's not what I was looking for. So I'm trying to back out of the deal on Heritage. But so I'm hoping that they'll let me out of it because it was like still $1,300.
Yeah. Well, you buy enough from there, you think they would.
Yeah. I think they'll be nice to me. But
yeah, because everybody makes a mistake.
Yeah, it was, but that's the kind of mistake that you can make as you're learning the things, because you don't get to see the covers very often, and nobody really knows. You have to do a lot of research just to find out what that book is, or even if that book even exists. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I found when I started collecting a lot of the Disney stuff, or a lot of this, especially the Disney stuff. It is much more challenging. It's easy to find out where Spider-Man's first appearance is.
Yeah.
Try to find out where the first appearance of Goofy is, or Porky Pig, or those characters. Like recently, I almost should show it. Do you know Wile E. Coyote?
Yeah.
So I like all the Disney characters. I'm a big Disney fan, and Looney Tunes fan for Wile E. Coyote. But I picked up his first appearance, what is considered his first appearance. But then I found out that there was an earlier first appearance where he had a different name. Same cartoon, same looks like, it is him, but it's an earlier appearance. It's like from the 40s instead of the 50s. So things like that, you kind of learn as you get more and more into this collecting thing, where there's even the key collector comics don't necessarily always know the stuff. And it's when you get into the industry, like I had to meet certain collectors, and they kind of gave me, and you keep on learning little bits of information, and it's really a very complicated thing after a while.
But if you take your time and because when you were talking about first appearance, I watched your video there where you had the first appearance of the Smurfs, but it wasn't in Smurfs #1. It was in another years before that.
Yeah, it's
magazine
Spiro 1071.
Wow. So, like, who would know that?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody knows that. But it's like, and then the funny thing is I posted that video, and this is actually where I'm learning. I learn from my viewers a lot of the time. Like they'll say, "Oh, but did you know there's like that the Smurfs actually cameoed before that? They had all these little cameo appearances where you didn't see them. They were always just like eyes and bushes.
Yeah.
They were like these kind of like little hidden creatures. And I like at first I don't think they were planning on showing them as a character. They just liked the idea of like some like hidden little creature, like that would talk from and you'd see them kind of be like this little creature.
Yeah.
And then they decided to actually put them out, and it was like I think 10 issues later that they actually came out as a character where you could actually see them. So you kind of learn these things where who would know that? I'm not going to go over and read like all these Belgian like random comics that that nobody would ever read.
No, for sure.
Yeah, so it's
But
kind of
that's
interesting.
and that's what I get from watching your videos, and because you come up with books that I've
Mm-hmm.
never even heard of,
Mm-hmm.
and first appearances, like covers I've never even seen, but
Mm.
they're fantastic. And just to hear the information about it, that's why I want to get into this, and watching videos like yours and Ryan's, and it all
Mm-hmm.
helps, right?
Yep. So speaking of videos, where can people find you, and what are you up to?
Well, right now, they can just find me on Instagram right
Mm-hmm.
now. I do have a YouTube channel. There's no videos on it at the moment, but I am going
At
to
the
get in.
moment, we're going to change that.
And we are going to change that. Um, I'm going to start some unboxings because I have a lot of fun watching them, and I'm sure I'll have more fun making them as well.
Mhm.
And they'll be all Disney, of course.
Mhm.
So hopefully it's something people will enjoy to see.
Yeah, I think people will. How often do you see a Disney unboxing?
Yeah, not a lot.
Not a lot.
No.
A Hulk 181, I see a lot, even though that's a great book. It gets kind of boring after the thousandth time seeing that book.
Yeah,
Seeing some really cool, like that Mickey Mouse one you showed. That's a cool book.
yeah.
That the Thumper one you showed. That's a cool book. Those are ones in the Bambi. Those are awesome books. You don't see those books very often.
No, no.
You know,
And I'm like you when I collect. I like to have something that not a lot of people have.
yeah,
I don't want to have something that there's 11,000 of them graded on the census and everybody and their dog has one, right? It's like,
yeah.
yeah, sure, they're worth a lot of money, but that's just not the way I collect.
Yeah.
I like to have different stuff. And
It's great that there are collectors like you where you have your niche, right? You like you like what you like, and
yeah,
I think in long term you'll I think you'll win. So
I hope so, because I'm having a lot of fun with it now. So,
mhm.
and if I can buy a couple a month or something like that, just to
Yeah, it's for
fun with
fun.
it for now until I get really serious, and then of
Mhm.
course my credit card starts going poof.
Yeah, your credit card hates you. So yeah, so I really enjoyed doing this interview, even if we had to do it twice.
Yeah,
And check out the links to my audience. Check out the links below. I'm going to put in the description links to Troy's YouTube and to his Instagram. Hopefully, by the time this gets posted, he'll have a couple videos on his YouTube channel. And yeah, thanks again, Troy, for coming on the show.
well, thanks for having me, Alan. It's great what you're doing here, because even for a new collector like me, and you can
Mhm.
have experienced collectors on here, it kind of brings the community together.
That's the
I think
goal.
it's fantastic to see their books and listen to the stories, and
Mhm.
it's a fantastic thing you're doing here. I wish you all the best of luck moving forward with it. I really do.
Oh, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Okay, so bye for now.
Bye.